Hey everyone, this is Newman here with 910 Airgun Tuning and Repairs. Today, we are going over the part 2 of the Dreamline Reassembly. Today we'll be going over the power adjuster, the regulator gauge, the entire air tube including the air tube end and the regulator, and then also the barrel attachment, and then lastly we'll put the stock back on. In any case, we will start with the power adjuster. So you may remember from the disassembly video, if you have seen it, this is the inner power adjuster. This little notch right here sets into that screw from the other side. So we're going to set this into this way with the notch facing towards the bottom of the action. Basically the hole facing vertical. You can feel when it's in place. You just hold it with your finger, flip it on over. You take your short countersunk screw right here. You see how short it is. And then it's going to be a 2.5 millimeter Allen key. Go in there, tighten it right up. Don't want to make it too tight, obviously. You never want to strip out any screws. Okay, so we've got that in now. Now the next part will be the outer adjuster with the knob, the spring and ball, and the last screw. So to go ahead and set it up, we've got the spring into the hole right here. The ball bearing will sit right on top of it. And then we're going to put the knob onto the outer adjuster. So how you do this, you line up the large hole up top, 25-30 facing up. You put it in there just like that. And there's two screws, one right here and one right here on the knob itself. It takes a 1.5 millimeter Allen key. Go ahead and tighten those up. You want them tight, but not too tight, as in you don't want to strip them out. You just want it snug enough to where the pressure of it holds it onto the outer adjuster. Alright, great. Now that we got that done, we can go ahead and take our countersunk screw, drop it in, go ahead and line this up, have the 25-30 facing up. Oh, first of all, we're going to want to put a little bit of silicone grease on this. I'd already greased up the inner adjuster, so we're just going to go ahead and put some silicone grease on these outer O-rings. Also, this will help it slide in easier. Wipe my fingers off so I don't get grease everywhere. Put that countersunk screw back in, 25-30 facing up. It's going to take just a little bit of pressing down. There we go, there's one click, one O-ring, and there's the second O-ring. And as you're pushing through, you'll notice as that countersunk screw will not go in because we have to screw it in. So we're going to take the 2.5 millimeter Allen again, and go ahead and tighten that on down. Also, we don't want this one too tight, you don't want to strip it out, but you do want it tight enough that it's not going to go anywhere. Also, you'll be able to turn your knob, it'll click on every setting, but it's not going to move anywhere on its own. Alright, give the action a quick little wipe down, get rid of that grease that we were just using. We'll go ahead and flip this on over. Alright, great. Now we're going to install the regulator gauge, and that's right here. The newer models will have a black face and go to 230, but in any case, you can just go ahead, put that on there, and twist it on by hand. It's only an X-ring underneath, so won't require any tools to install it. So there you go. It should just line up just like that with the X-ring underneath. If it doesn't quite line up, it might just be a little bit to the side or something. I mean, I can't turn it anymore with my hand, and you don't, with an X-ring, you don't have to turn it tighter than hand tight. The only time you do have to turn it tighter is if you're having a leak from the gauge, and then you can just tighten it up just a little bit. Just tighten up just a little bit. If you tighten up too much, the O-ring will actually compress into the reading hole or the gauge hole, and it'll block the gauge and it won't read any pressure at all. So be sure not to over tighten the gauge. Okay, great. So now we're gonna go on to the air tube. Alright, so now we're on to the tube end. So here we've got your check valve, or you could also call it your fill valve. We've got your gauge, the gauge seal, the actual tube end itself, and then your Delrin, well, it used to be called Delrin cover, now it's your dust cover, my bad. So this is your dust cover. So the first thing that we're going to do is install your check valve that goes into the bottom down here. You can probably see the little screw hole right there in the middle. So this is going to take, once again, a 2.5mm Allen key. Go ahead and put that on the end just like that. Put it into the middle. And just thread it on in. And just stop whenever whenever you loosely stop. You don't have to you don't torque it down or anything like that. You just stop. And that's all you need to go. You don't need to tighten it down or anything like that. Just when it stops, it stops. Alright, next we'll go ahead and place our Delrin seal in there. Just sets right on in there. We can take our gauge, start it with your hand, and then at last give it a good little torque down with an 11mm. Just enough to make sure it's tight, it's not going to go anywhere. And there you go. That should stop any sort of leaking or anything that you have with the gauge. Alright, and the last thing obviously is just to put on the dust cover just like that. And you're good to go. That's your tube end. Now we're going to install this onto the tube. Alright, so we got your tube in here, and here's your air tube. There you go, I'll run it past the camera. There you go, you can see this is your entire air tube. This right here is simply just going to thread right on in, so squeeze the O-ring right past your threads right here, just wiggle it past until you hit threads. And then you might want to take off the dust cover for this actually, but it's just going to thread right on in. There are a lot of threads, so it may take you a while. Uh-oh. Don't worry, if the cap of your gauge pops off, just put it right back on. Alright, so there we are, we're tightened up, and once again, just in the disassembly video, we took a Allen key and wrapped it in a towel in order to make sure that was nice and tight. So we're going to do that again. Let me just wrap the towel up. So here we go, just like in this disassembly video, we've got an Allen key wrapped in a towel. This will be the tighten up, the same way that we used it to loosen up. So I don't want to scratch up anything, so I want to make sure that towel gets all the way through. There we go. I'm just going to hold the tube firmly and get a good little press right there, good little squeeze, make sure it doesn't turn anymore. And there you go, it's bottomed out. Now we can put the dust cover back on, and now the end of the tube is done. Alright, so now we're going to install the regulator into the end of the tube, the other end of the tube. We've got here your amp regulator. We've got your adjustment screw. That side's going to go in first, so that this is facing out the receiver end of the tube. This is where the receiver screws in, and this will be facing it. So, just like so. I'm going to slowly put it in. If it's dry or anything like that, if it doesn't have any lube, be sure to lube it up first. So, we're going to slowly slide that through until you see the first O-ring right there. Keep pressing just a little bit. It's going to be hard. Uh-oh, went too far. You can see the edge of the adjustment screw. So we're just going to take our 5mm Allen, put that in there, into the nut that's on the end. It's a little bit hard to do with a straight in Allen than a ball Allen. You turn clockwise and pull. Alright, so it may take a little patience to get there, but there we go. We've got the screw in. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and attach it to your action. So just like that, wiggle past the O-ring and just thread it on. Alright, so once you get it bombed out, you just want to twist on it, make sure it's tight. That'll probably be at the bottom. The regulator screws in place. So there you have it. The tube has been assembled. So the last parts we got are the barrel and the stop. So let's go ahead and attach the barrel. Okay, so we got the barrel here. See the brass transfer port, or the brass inlet, and your stainless steel barrel attachment. We've got the shroud still on with the barrel support. There you go. There's the full barrel right there, end to end. So now we're just going to take this. There is a notch right here in the bottom of your inlet that'll line up with the pin that's in there. So the first thing actually is we need to make sure that these screws on top are loose. So we're going to take our 3mm, pull those out some, those front two, and then we're going to take our 4mm, just make sure that one's been loosened just at least a turn. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take this, slide on in. This little, I guess you call it divot, little punch hole or whatever, indicates the side, the exact side, 90 degrees from the pin, so it helps you slide it in. So I'm going to take that. There we go. Slide that on in. There we go. Get that in focus so you can see. Nice and flush. It's not going to go any farther. Now it's in place. So now we're going to make sure that our the barrel support is lined up. It's flush with the action as much as it can. It's not twisting either way. It's nice and jammed on there. So we're going to take our 3mm and go ahead and lock down that barrel. You want to make sure they're tight, not too tight. These front two, you want to make sure, yeah, the screws are tight. You don't want them too tight. If they're too tight, you can possibly like shove them into the barrel or whatever. I mean, it takes a lot of torque to do that, but just make sure they're tight and they're going to hold the barrel. You don't want to make them too tight. And then also this top one right here, you just want enough to where it just touch. You can thread it in. It'll just touch the top of the brass. You don't want it the mar into the brass. You don't want the press into the brass. You just want to touch it. The second it touches, it's done. All it does is it serves as a plug. So that's all that is. So there we go. The action is completely assembled from side to side and all the way down. Now we're going to put on the stock. Alright, so here's your stock from end to end. I'm not going to zoom out for this because we're only dealing with a small section here. You flip the stock over, you see there's two holes right here. That is for these two countersunk screws. So what we're going to do is take the action, go ahead and set it like so. You see your two holes right here for the stock. Take the stock, set it in, set the trigger guard over the trigger. It'll slide right on. There's a groove here for the regulator gauge. There's a groove here for the power wheel. Just hold the stock on too. Hold it level. Drop your screws in. Hold it down here by the air tube. Go ahead and grab your 3mm. And go ahead and hit the camera. Go ahead and start loosely threading those in. Alright, then once you've got them loosely threaded in, then you can apply just a little bit of torque. You don't want to torque down too hard or too tight or anything like that. Just enough to where it's nice and snug. and you don't have any movement in your action. Or I should say your action to your stock. That's in there nice and snug. It's not going anywhere. And there you go. There's your Dreamline completely reassembled. Alright. Thank you very much for watching.